Throughout the summer months, we have watched quite a story unfold over in the West Bonner County School District. You may remember this. In June, former state lawmaker and state superintendent candidate Branden Durst was appointed superintendent for West Bonner. By a vote of 3-2, Durst was approved by the school board there. Those two no votes, though, they raised a major question. Was Mr. Durst even eligible to be the superintendent? One of the requirements for Durst to get the job, or any superintendent job in the state of Idaho, is to have 4 years of full-time certified experience working with students while under contract with an accredited school, which Durst doesn't have. So he went ahead and applied for an emergency provisional certificate through the state of Idaho. And there's been chatter for weeks about what the State Board of Education would do with the application. Would they approve it? Was it a rubber stamp? Would there be a conversation? Well, here's your big payoff. We learned today. A letter signed by State Board Executive Director Matt Freeman explains that there is no pathway for Durst to be superintendent at this time. There are a few big takeaways here in this letter. First, though, the decision by West Bonner's school board to hire Durst prompted a legal review of Idaho statutes and administrative rules, according to the state board. There was question simply because West Bonner wanted an uncertified person to serve as superintendent, so they thought they'd look into it. So the state board admits that they have issued emergency provisional certificates to administrators on 3 separate occasions since the year 2015. With that said, though, the board found that the review, quote, concluded that Idaho code only authorizes the issuance of emergency provisional certificates to teachers. The state board does not have legal authority to grant certificates to administrators or to waive the administrator certificate, the letter says. The conclusions of this letter goes on to say, quote, absent Mr. Durst meeting all 5 requirements for a superintendent endorsement under Idaho code, there is no pathway for Mr. Durst to obtain the legally required certification to serve as the West Bonner County School District superintendent. So West Bonner now needs to find another person to be their superintendent, and we do know that Durst can still work for the district in some capacity if he wanted to, but we'll see where that goes. The question you may have at home, will we see a legal challenge to all of this? Who knows? Well, maybe Mr. Durst knows if he wants to challenge this legally, and speaking of which, he took to Twitter to respond to this letter today, saying, quote, the Idaho State Board of Education curiously decided it no longer had authority to grant emergency provisional certificates to any administrator applicant. This decision was not limited to me, he writes. However, the timing is particularly strange. The tweet continues, certainly as the state board acknowledged, they have granted them in the past. In fact, they granted one just a couple of months ago for an applicant in the West Bonner County School District. Further, it seems odd that the state board would not rescind an emergency certification that it knew it didn't have the authority to grant if that is their new position. That's what Mr. Durst writes, and he concludes his tweet saying that, quote, this was a discriminatory act by a board run by those with a political axe to grind. They will be held accountable for their discriminatory actions, end quote, for Mr. Durst. So we'll be sure to follow this situation. I know this is not going to be the end of it. I will add this. The next school board meeting up there should be interested. We'll keep you posted.